Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to talk about something. I want to tackle a big topic. The two things that I get asked about the most is money and relationships. And then I would say in like a distant third place would be health. So I wanted to make a video tackling what I think is the most important would be money. Because if you don't have money, you're stressed out. You're not even thinking about your person and what they're doing. You're just like scrambling. And then, yeah. So I want to talk about that today. And I wanted to bring in the spiritual laws that I really enjoy talking about. And I wanted to bring in the science that I really enjoy talking about and kind of break it down and tell you what I think is like the best plan of action and I guess like where you're going to get the most bang for your buck, so to speak, pun intended. Okay, so manifesting money, large amounts of money, consistently. When we're thinking about manifesting $5,000 and then we think about manifesting 500,000 grand, it feels different. Ironically, it's the same. And it's really just how your relationship is with that $500,000 and your relationship with that $5,000. So, what you believe about a certain sum of money, your frequency and how comfortable you feel around that particular amount of money is essentially communicating with the outside world about what you're okay with receiving and what you're not okay with receiving. Which sounds counterintuitive because we all are like, I would totally love to receive $1 million. But you actually wouldn't. You would, logically, but something in your body would not like it. Or else you would have received it by now. And yeah. And in some ways, I even think receiving large amounts of money is easier in the sense that, I work in sales and I go all over the US and I'm selling the same thing over and over to a lot of the time the same people. And I give the same sales spiel. And what I have found is the bigger the sale, the easier it goes. Which I know sounds so crazy. And some of the hardest sales, the people that won't shut up, that have a million questions, are on the fence, they need to think about it, they don't know, it's always the smallest sales. It's funny, in my industry, I work with a lot of other girls, and we've like coined the term, I'm the $100 queen tonight. Usually we sell in increments. It starts at $100, so that's the lowest value of what we can sell, and it'll go up to usually about 1,000. Sometimes we're allowed to sell like 2,000 or 3,000 or 5,000. The most I've ever sold to one person was $10,000. which is crazy. In retrospect, it's crazy. It's not. You know, if you're a car salesman and you're selling a $10,000 car, you're going to be like, this is horrible. But for me, it was a big deal, which is a great point to show that money is just relative. $10,000 is $10,000. And in my little mind, that was the best sale I've ever done. In somebody who has a different reference to money in sales, that's nothing. So very important to remember how we observe money is, and how we view it and how we feel about it is very important. So anyways, the $10,000, I'm sitting there, I'm like, might as well do the $5,000, blah, 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 you know, and I'm giving my whole spiel. I work in fundraising, so, you know, I like use all the emotional, it's a good cause, like, you know, we really value you, you can write a portion of it off, blah, blah, blah. This was my first sale at a brand new event that I have never worked for before. I don't know any of these people. And I'm just kind of like, don't care, because I was just like, whatever. I didn't have any expectations because it was a new event. I didn't know what to expect. And so I was like, might as well do 5,000. He's like, okay. And I was kind of like, okay. And then I was like, well, then you might as well do 10,000. And he was like, all right. And I was like, don't forget, Madison. I was like, okay, I'll go get that set up for you. So I go over to like the people, like the director of the fundraiser. I'm like, hey, I just sold it. They're like, you just sold $10,000? It was my first sale of the night. And I was like, yeah, can you guys put together 2 more essentially books of 5,000 for me, because I already sold them? And they're like, no problem. So I go to my next guy and I'm like, might as well buy $5,000. He's like, all right. And then I go to the next guy. I'm like, might as well buy $5,000. He's like, all right. So then I ran out of my, what I could visually show for what they were getting for the $5,000 package. And I go back to the director and they're like, it's not that we don't believe you, but can you show us the receipts? And I was like, yeah. Boom, boom. And then they were like, oh my God, it really was 10,000. Oh my God, it really was 5,000. It was 5,000. Now, I say all that to say my energy was super, did not care. I did not care what I was selling. I did not get excited when they said, sure. I was like, you know, now do I make a commission off it? Yeah, yeah. But I just didn't care for whatever reason. It was a new event. I came in with no expectations. So I felt like my energy about it was really blasé. And I was having so much fun because I didn't care. So I was just like, how's it going? You guys having a good night? I had zero desperate energy. I was just having fun and enjoying my time and enjoying the company, kind of like chitter-chattering with people. And I don't think that was the most I've ever sold, but it was the fastest and the largest, per unit. I think I ended up selling like 30,000, 33,000, and I maybe sold to less than 10 people, which normally I would sell to like 20 or 30 people, smaller increments, it would be more work. All that to say, sometimes the easier and more fun you're having at work, like the more money you make. And I've noticed that. I used to be a bartender. The customers that were like fucking nightmares, they won't tip, they have a problem with everything, they don't want to pay the prices, they're just and the people that are like the most fun and friendly to be around and the happiest, and they just, yes, when I just was having a good time and enjoying myself, I would always make a lot of money. When I was stressed out or desperate or in a bad mood, was when I would not make any money. And I do feel like that with anytime you're manifesting money or bringing in money, or especially if you're in sales, oh my gosh, like it's so, see, I just feel like notoriously, like if I walk in and I don't care, I always sell the most. If I walk in and I'm like, I have to make money tonight, like I have this bill due, like I really need to like hit this commission mark, like I really want to, blah, blah, blah. I'm the $100 queen. And that was my whole point. The girls that I work with sometimes will make a joke like, oh, how are you doing? Like, are you selling a lot? And they're like, no, I'm the $100 queen. Meaning all they can sell are these smaller packages of $100, which again might sound like a lot to somebody who is a bartender. $100 is a high sale. But if you're a car salesman, it's nothing. So again, look at money as relative and try to get familiar and comfortable with larger amounts of money, which this job in fundraising has helped me do. I see people drop a lot of money very fast on seemingly nothing, seemingly paper, and it's really helped me be expand in what is normal for me, what's a lot of money for me, and what's not. Now, obviously, it's their wallets that they're spending out of, not mine, but for whatever reason, it does help by being around people who don't blink twice at spending $1,000 or $2,000 or $3,000 or $5,000 or even $10,000. And then at these fundraisers, it's not me selling these things per se, but I've seen when we do what is called live auction. I'm sure you've seen like the paddle boards, like on movies or TV shows when you're bidding. I've seen, I think it was $1.5 million cash for a membership. So again, they're not tangibly getting anything. It was a society membership that this fundraiser, you could be a part of their club. I feel like I looked at the benefits of the club. It was nothing. And the minimum entry on that club, I think they scaled it like you could only a certain amount of people could become members each year, and the minimum was $250,000 donation. But then they auctioned it off and it went for $1.5 million, and that person didn't flinch. So that's good for me to be around, because I'm like, okay, there is a possibility where dropping $1.5 million on nothing, seemingly, he didn't get like anything. He got a badge. He was part of that club. I think he was a life member. But still, you get a badge for the rest of your life. But I'm laughing because I'm not in that mindset. One day I might be. I might be like, yeah, I'll drop $2 million to be a part of this cool club, the Cool Kids Club, or whatever. Whatever. Anyway. But it's good for me to see this in real life being an option. These people live like that. I don't yet, but I can see that it's real. It's not just in movies or TV shows. Okay, so all that to say, money is relative, and sometimes manifesting the larger amounts, it's easier in some ways. If you don't care, which I know is so hard, it's easier. If you care, it's harder. So let's talk about how we can get into that mentality of, I would call it flow state, but just being easy. So now if you're somebody who doesn't freak out about having whatever, like you kind of have what am I trying to say? If you're somebody who hangs around having, let's say, $4,000 to $5,000 in your bank account at any given time. That's your baseline. So that you have like a repertoire with that amount of money. That amount of money feels safe with you. You're not going to manifest your car breaking down so that it goes down to, $100 in your account. And whatever it takes, whether you go to a job or you just randomly get chunks of money here and there, that's your baseline. So when you don't have resistance to it, it's really easy for that to come in. Okay, but what if you want to have 10 or 20K hanging out in your bank account, 100K hanging out in your bank account at any given time, $1 million hanging out in your bank account at any time? So you're going to have triggers and you're going to have resistance, which is so annoying. And that's based on so many different things. Usually your life, what you've experienced. Me and what I've experienced, I grew up, my dad was the breadwinner. My mom was stay-home mom. And my dad was really talented businessman. He owned a bunch of motorhome dealerships. He was killer salesman. My mom would always say he could sell an ice cube to an Eskimo. My dad was great. He was a great, great salesman. He was smart with business. And he was smart in finance. But my dad had a very horrible, traumatic upbringing. Terrible. And his self-worth was shit. And he needed inner child work so bad. Sometimes I think my parents, because they both kind of had that shitty upbringing in different ways. And I think if they could have, if they had access to this, I think they were, soulmates, but because of all their trauma, they kept self-sabotaging their own relationship and their finances. And I've seen both of my parents do that. So that was imprinted on me. And obviously I've taken it upon myself to really try to break that. And I have in a lot of ways. I have overcome, I think, so much of my mentality around money. I'm very proud of myself for where my baseline is at now. It was not here even 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, even 3 years ago. There's just been improvements. And this is why I make these videos, not because I'm like, I want everyone to have a fucking Ferrari, which, yeah, I do. I want everyone to have their dream car. But what's the point of having your dream car if you feel like shit about yourself? And it breaks my heart thinking about my dad and even my mom. I know that they had really bad mentalities. And I've seen them improve over the years. It wouldn't be a video if I didn't cry. And I always say, like, my mom and dad were soulmates. They just couldn't make it work in this lifetime. They were perfect for each other. But they just self-sabotaged. And it makes me sad because they could have had such a different story if they knew and had access to this kind of work and this kind of help and these tools. And yes, I do think, like, it's super cool to be able to, like, not look at price tags and go shopping and go on these cool vacations and get to explore. All of that is wonderful. But those are just byproducts of knowing who you are. And damn, this one got me. Thinking about my parents really got me. But yeah, anyways, all the fun stuff is just a byproduct of not believing any of the bullshit that you believe about yourself, or that you've been told about yourself, or that you misinterpreted about yourself. It's all lies. And for whatever reason that happened, I want it to be fixed. I want everyone who doesn't feel good about themselves, doesn't expect much out of themselves. Fuck, it breaks my heart. And you see it all the time. You see it. How you feel about yourself is getting pushed out. It is being yelled from the rooftops. Now, obviously, some people are very, they are in their own little world, and not really paying attention, or not, whatever. But if you are an empath and you even just walk by somebody with a shit mentality, it is just being admitted, and it breaks my heart, because I'm like, I might not be where I want to be, but I know that person like can have better. And maybe people look at me and think, well, she could have better. And it is a process, and it's an evolution, and it's never going to stop. But I do think that's why I feel so strongly about this, and like, it's available to you. Not just having the fun toys and the money and the access to abundance, but also feeling good about yourself and knowing that you deserve it. That's the work. It's not getting money. And then the money becomes obsolete. It doesn't even matter, because when you feel good about yourself, you're just happy. And that's what I mean, like, there's no resistance. When I feel good about myself and I'm going into, a sale or a client or whatever, and I feel good about myself, I don't care if I'm selling or not. And I will take that over making a lot of money with strife and fucking turmoil and scarcity and stress any day. Because that money will disappear. It will never be in your fucking bank account. Your mindset will spend that money before it even hits your statement. So all of this is just the fluff to get to the root of knowing who you are, loving yourself, and knowing what you deserve. All that to say, my dad didn't know what he deserved, but he was a fucking stubborn old Italian man. So he would make millions, and he would be successful, and he would be amazing, and he would lose it all. He couldn't hold it because he didn't think he was worthy of it. Even when he had a wife and kids. I almost feel like he was able to get more success with the marriage to my mother and having me and my sisters, because I think he thought we deserved it, which is so sad. I gotta pull myself together. I have a fucking so much more to talk about. Can I also say that I just recommend watching my videos on 1.25 or 1.5, because I'm a slow speaker, and even I would get annoyed watching this. Okay, so having resistance, it really comes down to what you think you deserve and what you feel safe receiving. Money is not hard to attract. There is so much, and there are so many avenues. And like I said in my last video, at any given moment, when you're tuned in to the right mindset, there are 50 fucking doorways to get you the money you want. I also use the analogy of a string, like, you know, you pull a string and then it leads you to the next. There's 50 strings that you can follow to the next. You have to be in your mindset. Making money is not hard. Receiving money is not hard. Having dream clients isn't hard. Having your baseline bump from 5K to 100K in your bank account is not hard. In fact, it's so easy once you're in alignment. It's actually effortless and you're not even thinking about it, and you're kind of just having fun and just kind of like goofing off. It's weird. The harder I worked for money, the less I made. The more fun I had when I was making money, the easier it came. And that I noticed that even before I knew about all this stuff. Okay, so when I say people's self-concept or how they feel about their self-worth is being like screamed from the rooftop, I mean it. Now, again, if you're, like I said, like an empath, I do feel like people are screaming it at me. I feel like it's so obvious. That comes through the person's thoughts, their emotions, their focus. You're just broadcasting it. Your heart and your brain and your heart are two of the biggest energy receptors. I would even like a tuning fork, like, you know, you like ding. These are your two biggest electromagnetic sources that get pushed out and are communicating with the world around you. So like if you are going to a psychic that's actually a legit psychic, that they're just super in tune with the electromagnetic field, because that is going to turn into like thought forms. You know, if energy can be created or destroyed, your thoughts, whether we can see it or not, which we can't see, I think like 90% of the world around us, the light. So if matter is just light, essentially this is a hologram. Like I said in my last video, 99.99% of everything we see is empty, and what we think is matter can be congested into the entire universe into a little sugar cube. What we see as solid is just light. Our eyes only pick up, I think it's like a very small portion of the scale of light. If here's your full like UV spectrum of light, as humans, we pick up this much. So there is like 80-90% of the world going on around us that we are not able to visually see. Now, those light particles, I do believe, are communicating with each other. So anyways, like a psychic, that's just an example of, I think that they're just super in tune with that energy form. And anybody can be really like, I mean, we all have that person. I think we all have access to be in communication with the invisible world around us. Some people just have a little bit more of a natural skill, but you can grow that muscle if you want. So we're communicating with the world all the time, right? And yeah, so if you don't feel good about yourself, it's being oozed out onto other people, and that's why they treat you like crap, because they know you don't think highly of yourself. It's like they don't even mean to. They don't even want to be rude to you or dismiss you or speak down to you. It just happens naturally. Isn't that weird? I told the story before. this gentleman, the nicest man I had ever met. Everyone was so mean to him. And I could almost feel the urge in me to like say something sarcastic to him, or what, like he was like trying to say something, and I almost had I could feel the urge coming up to be like, oh, like to brush what he said aside. But I was like, no, he's literally so nice. Don't do that. But you can like, it's weird because that's what he was emitting. That it doesn't matter how nice he is, people just were like mean to him. It was really sad, actually. The nicest guy ever. So essentially, you gotta fix what you believe about yourself, which is so hard. Well, it's not hard, it's tedious. So we're responding with the outside world. So we need to be communicating in an effective, beneficial way for us. And there's different ways you can do that. One, you can be grateful. That is like emotionally you're emitting that emotion of gratitude. It is very powerful. You're letting your surroundings know that you have something to be grateful for, so you should have more things to be grateful for. That's great. You can use the power of your words, because your words hold vibration, and that's sending that out with things like affirmations or speaking things into existence. There's a lot of power behind that. I know we all talk about these things, but it's true. If you look at it as a tangible way that you're communicating, if you knew all your emotions, all your words, all your thoughts were tangible energies going out and then talking and communicating with the tangible physical world, you would be a lot more careful. And that's essentially what's happening. And science proves it. My last video about how science proves that nothing exists unless you say so, that's really all about that. Essentially, we are living in a hologram, and nothing is real unless we observe it. And we are collapsing light into solids, and that is our experience without the 3D. And we do that through what we're emitting, through our thoughts, feelings, beliefs. So if you think of it tangibly as your emotion is a tangible, real thing going out and intertangling with the world outside of you, you'd be a lot more careful. If your words, you saw them as physical things going out and entangling with the world around us, we'd be a lot more careful. And your thoughts or your visuals or literal things going out, you'd be a lot more careful. And to my point that we don't see the full spectrum of light, I kind of would have a theory or a hypothesis that they are tangible, but we don't pick it up. And I think that's like a really good way to like stay accountable. Okay. Now those 3 ways, your emotions, your words, and your thoughts are all wonderful. But if you have a shit self-concept, it's not gonna work. I mean, it'll work. It's like, robotic affirmations work, but they don't last. Nobody wants to hear it, but you gotta fix the root problem. You can call this self-concept, you can call this inner child work, you can call this nervous system work. Find something and stick with it. I do like EMT, emotional freedom technique, EFT, tapping with affirmations. That's awesome. That's very self-soothing to the nervous system. You're releasing old thought forms. So you would start with like you're tapping, for example, Even though I haven't experienced a lot of wealth in my life, I know that it's available for me, and I can experience wealth. And then you would go to the next pressure point. Even though I don't always feel worthy of it, I know that I can change my beliefs about myself and become worthy of millions of dollars. And then you move to the next pressure point. Even though I haven't experienced it yet, I know I can experience being wealthy. And next pressure point, I think I'm ready to release the beliefs that have kept me from not experiencing a lot of wealth. And then the next pressure point. I'm running out of things to think or say. But you're moving up the scale of like, even though this hasn't been a possibility in my life, I'm seeing that it might be, and I'm ready to call it in. So I'm ready to experience a lot of wealth, and I know that I can feel safe in doing it. Next pressure point. I'm ready to release my fears around having a lot of wealth and call in wealth that I've never experienced before. I am happy to release the fears about having a lot of money and replace them with excitement and new ideas, and opening up my vision to the opportunities in front of me for lots of money. I am worthy and deserving of lots of money and opportunities, and making money is easy, fast, and natural. And done. So now we're releasing the old program, and you're rewiring for safety around those things. Okay, if you're not into that, child work, which essentially is revision. I've done a video on this. You go in, you get into a meditative state, you ask yourself, when's the first time I didn't feel safe, or lacked abundance, or didn't feel safe having money, or experienced that money was hard to come by? Or just start asking yourself, okay, let me get specific with money. You need to figure out what you believe about money. For me, maybe I felt like it was like easy come, easy go, because I saw that happen with my dad. So I would have to go in, get into a meditative state, have maybe 1 or 2 points of the beliefs that I hold around money that are negative. Get into a meditative state, ask myself, when's the first time that you remember having a lot of money and losing it? And I would go to that place, and I would essentially revise. I would talk to myself as my highest version of myself, talk to the version of myself that first remembers this. Maybe she's 3, maybe she's 5, maybe she's 10. I'd say, tell me what you want to tell me, explain what's going on. And she might say, you know, I just saw dad lose all his money and this and that, and it's really scary. And I would say, what do you need? And she'll just say whatever she says. Maybe she'll say, I just want to know like that we're going to be okay. We're not going to lose our house. I just want to make sure that I'm going to have food and clothes and whatever. And like, if that was something that happened, I would say, okay, I'm here as my highest self. I'm here to provide that for you. Nobody's going to take your home away from you. You're always going to have food. You're always going to have this. And then visually give yourself those things, even if you have to go through, like fast forward to like a certain age if you guys did lose your house. Like, see, I'm still here. We still have the house, I told you. And you're going to rewrite your history, which I know is kind of weird, but it's so effective that who cares if it's weird. There's also things like somatic, body movement, and breath work. Those things I haven't done. I think I'm very resistant to certain self-soothing techniques. I for whatever reason, my trauma makes me very anti. I hated inner child work. I hated EFT tapping. I hated that I had to touch my chest because it was close to my heart. I hated I don't know. I did not like that stuff. Now, there is another thing that you can do for releasing negative energy around negative emotions around these things. Essentially, it's nervous system support. And I hate it. I've never done it. Oh no, I did. I just started doing it. My therapist started doing this with me, and I was like, this feels so counterintuitive. But I did it because she's smart. So essentially, we would talk about something that was triggering, losing money or not having enough money. And she wouldn't make me necessarily go back and do inner child work. She would say, tell me what you notice physically. And it would always be like a tightness in my chest, but it could be like a pit in my stomach. It could be like a tightness in my shoulders. And she would say, what's the feeling? Without judging it, we're just gonna observe it. And I would say, it feels tight. And she was like, okay, just observe it. Just watch it, listen to it. And she would sometimes make me describe, does it have a shape? Does it have a color? Does it have a descriptive, like, is it a person? Is it a cloud? Is it a whatever? And I would just say, this is what it looks like. It's usually just like a dark, tight, nasty feeling in my chest when thinking about certain triggering topics. And I hated feeling it. I was one of those people my whole life that would disengage or numb out. And I was so good at it. I didn't feel anything for like 20 years. But I was an asshole. I had no sympathy. I was just such a dick. So then I started doing all this work, and now that's why I'm always crying, because, I've been suppressing my feelings for 20 years. So it's a good thing that I cry. It's embarrassing, but it's a good thing. So, maybe you're like, okay, when I think about having a lot of money or something, or maybe not even having it, but like, what's the block? It's gonna be different for everyone. You have to be intuitive, and you have to listen to your own thoughts and your own intuitive thing. For me, I think it's definitely worthiness, and like, I just didn't feel like I deserved to have money. Okay, so let's think about what you would feel like if I told you that you were gonna get $100,000 tomorrow. And you sit with it, oh, I'll be excited. Okay, what else comes up? So you're just observing feelings in your body and describing them. And you can do this by yourself. You're basically splitting into two. You're going to be the observer, and then you're going to be you and your body. And you can almost like ask yourself questions. Okay, how does it feel? The observer is going to ask, like, how does it feel? And you're like, okay, now I'm starting to feel a little tight. I'm starting to feel a little anxious. I'm starting to feel a little sad. I'm starting to feel a little worried. And then as the observer, you're just going to say, okay, let's just sit with it, which is like it feels counterintuitive. You're like, no, we don't want to have negative energy, negative feelings. You sit with it. And as the observer, every few minutes, well, this is what my therapist would do. Has anything changed? Yeah, it's lessened up. It's kind of morphed around. It's gotten smaller. Okay. And essentially, she would check in like every 30 seconds or a minute until they always dissolved. And I think that they just wanted to be acknowledged. The pain of whatever you went through, not feeling good about yourself, whatever. You don't have to go in super heavy with the inner child work and talk to and like do the whole visual. Sometimes the feelings just want to be acknowledged, which feels counterintuitive. I know. You just want to like get rid of them. That's how you get rid of them, by acknowledging them. So when you can do that, when you can, now this is a somatic practice. And again, I was very anti-somatic practices when I first started this. When you can hold that feeling, you can observe that feeling, and your brain sees nothing bad is happening, we're safe, we can hold this feeling until it passes, it rewires you with that specific thing, which is priceless. Like I said, I pay a lot of money for my therapist to do this, but this information, you can do this on your own. And every time something comes up, I would do this like maybe once a day or whatever, because it's always going to be something slightly different. It's not just like fear around having a lot of money. It's going to be, do I feel worthy? Do I feel smart enough? Am I smart enough to manage large amounts of money? Do I believe this about myself? Did I have something traumatic happen around me? Like, you just have to slowly peel back the layers. And you'll see huge improvements, even with the one little layer. Once that part of you is rewired, it's rewired. And that's why inner child work and whatever you want to call this, somatic nervous system stuff, it's annoying, but it is so worth it. You cannot compare this to talk therapy. Talk therapy keeps all this active, you know? So anyways, all that to say, I do think that is the biggest component. Once you can incorporate that, then you just want to be really hyper aware of what you're sending out and be intentional. Be intentional with your feelings. Do like 2 minutes of gratitude in the morning for anything. It doesn't matter if it's real or not. I'm grateful for this freaking this. I like the color of it. I don't know, make something up. It doesn't have to be for this $1 million home or $1 million in your bank. And then you're gonna do like a couple minutes of affirming. Sometimes the affirming, it's like a little robotic. I'm not a fan of it. I mentioned this in my last video. I really like the conversation method where I have a phone call with somebody and I'm describing to them what happened. Oh yeah, I just got this like great job offer or contract, or it's so crazy. I just had like this $10,000 come out of nowhere, like in my bank account this morning. It's so awesome. I'm so excited. So now I'm going to take a trip I'm going to go to Italy. I really wanted to go to Italy, but I didn't see what was going to happen. And then this $10,000 came, and just like have a conversation, because the words do create too. And then visualizing, I do feel like it's the hardest thing to do. That's why I like the visualizing the phone call, because you could say it out loud, or you could do it in your head as a visualization. But bring in like concepts. So if you haven't noticed, I don't take my jewelry off. I'm super lazy. I am not like good at jewelry. So I've had this on since I was in the 4th grade. And actually my finger's super fucked up because of it. I can't take it off. My thumb would break because it never got to grow. So in all my visualizations, I make sure to bring in any part of my jewelry, because I'm trying to pull in what Neville calls tones of reality. I always have like a cup of a Yeti, so I like pull in the ones that I use all the time. So I'm on the phone, I'm talking to my girlfriend, and I will pick this up, drink it, see my ring, or a bracelet, and because that's not like crazy future Madison, that's like Madison right now. And then yeah, I would just do the nervous system rewiring, because that really is going to help your self-concept. If you can revise every shitty thing that's ever happened to you, you're going to have the world's best self-concept. So then It doesn't matter if it's money, love, health, it's all coming. Now, I do feel bad because I didn't necessarily like focus too much on money. We can do this with, this is interchangeable with anything, but I do think money comes down to safety and self-worth and what your parents and the people around you are, what their finances look like. And I know it's so weird. And so just trying to get comfortable and acquainted with larger amounts of money, because there was a time in my life when I was a kid I thought $500 was so much money. Now, what the fuck is $500 gonna do for me? There was a time in my life where I think it was in my 20s, in my early 20s, and this girl told me she made $1,000 in a day, and I literally couldn't believe it. I was like, get the fuck out of here. There's no way. And now I'm like a little disappointed if I only make $1,000 in a day. I want to be closer to like 2 or 3. And then there's people that are going to be like, that's nothing. And there's people. So I'm trying to grow my concept of what's a lot and what's not. And that could be what you average daily. That can be what stays in your bank account. That could be like maybe your paychecks. You know, it's different for everybody, but just get acquainted, start pushing your limits, pushing your boundaries, and catch yourself when, because I used to be like this, like I would like say like, oh, well, I can't afford that. You can, you're just not ready to spend that kind of money on something. Or I would say, oh gosh, I can't even imagine, like I would just like speak out my own limitation on money, and then people, you know, it's like, don't do that. Don't do that. Be intentional with your words in daily conversation. If somebody says, oh, I made 5K today, don't be like, whoa, how'd you do that? Be like, that's awesome. If he can do it, I can do it. You know? All right. This is probably a really long video, so I'm gonna shut the fuck up and go to the gym. I hope this helps. Key takeaway, I would do in the morning 2 minutes of a gratitude, like you really want to push that out, that feeling of gratitude. I would do 2 minutes of affirmations or verbal, talking about everything that you have. And then I would do like a 2 to 3 minute visualization. If you can't visualize, do the phone call, but in your head. Phone call to a friend and telling them like all the good news. And then at night, I would do like a 10-minute meditation where you're gonna pick a trigger or something you feel uncomfortable about, and you're gonna do some nervous system healing. So either that feeling the feelings and letting them pass and rewiring them, or revising your child at some key point in your childhood, or if you're into somatic, you know, breath work or body work, that's fine. I just think when you're dealing directly with money, me fucking breathing, but some people love it. I just feel like it's off topic, like it's more general. Oh, move your body like this. Oh, somatic healing. All right. But me personally, I just want to like stay on topic. So I'm going to revise pieces of my childhood that I know affect me, my mentality about money, and I'm going to sit with feelings and rewire them that I know affect me about money. Okay. Thanks for listening. Thank you guys so much. I hope this helps you, and happy manifesting. I hope you guys are going to make millions or whatever you want to manifest. Okay. Because you're worth it. And that's all that matters, really. At the end of this, you're worth so much more than money. So much more. And remember that. So get all the money in the meantime, but you're worth everything in this universe. Okay, happy manifesting.